I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Smack 'em a gob, it's time for the only news that matters on Black Sabbath Sunday. And speaking of Black Sabbath, legendary Black Sabbath bassist Geezer Butler has opened up about his 2015 bar brawl arrest. According to Butler, he punched a drunken Nazi bloke in the face after he spewed some anti-Semitic beliefs to Geezer Butler. Back in 2015, we reported that Geezer had been arrested after a bar fight in Death Valley, California. The only information available at the time that was an individual had been struck at a bar window was broken, and a bar window was broken. In an intense interview with Classic Rock magazine, however, Butler shared his side of the story for the first time. He said, "My sister-in-law had just died, and I'd gone to Death Valley in California just to get away from it all. Not just that, everything. Christmas, New Year's, everything like that. I went down to the gift shop in the hotel, and there was this rich, nice Western bar there. I thought, I may as well have one before I go to bed. It wasn't the strongest beer I've ever had in my life. The next thing I know, this guy started mouthing off about something, and he was like some drunken Nazi bloke. He recognized me, and because I was in the music business, he started going on about Jews and everything. Jews this, Jews that. My missus is Jewish, and I just had enough. And, my hand sort of met his chin. I whacked him one. I was absolutely legless at the time. I don't know what happened, but 1 minute I was in this bar, and the next thing I'm being arrested. I woke up in jail. That was bad enough, but waking up with a hangover was horrible. I was totally ashamed. I should have just walked away. But when you get pissed off, and out of your brain, you don't know what you're doing." According to Geezer, he hadn't had a drink since the incident. Okay, a man named Chase, who claimed he was the man who Geezer branded a Nazi, had shared his account of what happened that night. He said, "I had gotten off of work at the inn at Furnace Creek, and I went down the hill to a bar, and this old English guy just kept talking about my hand tattoos. This and that about Ozzy had tattoos like that on his hand, and I kept trying to blow the guy off until he went to the bathroom, and the bartender asked if I knew who that guy was, and he showed me a picture of a young Geezer Butler. And I was like, fuck, I'm a dick." Now, I apologized to him, and I asked for a picture and got a couple, and we were drinking and having a good time. Geezer proceeded to talk about how he was born again and kept talking about he's a Jew and how he found God again and whatnot. He got drunk, only annoying with how much he was talking about God and being Jewish. My friend and I went outside to smoke a cigarette, and Geezer ended up following us outside. He grabbed at me and then threw a punch, and I moved out of the way. He then went for my friend Derek with the same move, and my friend moved out of the way. A security guard came up from behind Geezer and put his hand on Geezer's shoulder, and Geezer swung around and drilled the security guard right in the mouth. He then punched the small corner panel of the giant window. I dipped the fuck out at that point. About 2 hours later, I was asleep in my room on property and woke up to the police banging on my door. They took me over to the SUV and questioned me and asked if the man in the SUV was the one who started the fights. I had to tell them yes. Almost lost my job because of it. I'm not a fucking Nazi or whatever Geezer has told the press. If you knew me, you'd laugh at that allegation that Geezer has started in his interview about this altercation. His friend Derek, who was mentioned above, also told about the account that happened. He said, after I got off work at Furnace Creek, I had a few drinks with some friends like I often did. I walked into the bar and ordered a drink and went outside. My friend Chase came out a few minutes later telling us that Geezer Butler was in the bar. He seemed excited and went back in to talk to him. I went in a little later and said hi. I really couldn't understand a single word out of Geezer's mouth as he was clearly very intoxicated. So I basically just said hi, nice to meet you, and walked away. Chase stayed in and talked to him a bit. About 10 minutes later, Chase and I went outside. Geezer came out of the door yelling something. I still couldn't understand a word. He threw his beer at me, covering me in beer, and then proceeded to take 3 punches at me, and I stepped back every time. He didn't make contact with me, but he did make contact with the security guard on duty that night. I don't know how the word Nazi came into this arrival at all. Being of Jewish descent myself, it is hurtfully that somebody drunk trying to attack me would call me that. Alright, there you go. Wow, what a story, huh? I remember this story back in the day, but I guess Geezer said after the fact that this guy was saying Nazi stuff. Now, the dude's coming out, him and his friend are saying, man, that guy was just loaded out of his mind. He's bullshitting. So, I don't know, man. Either side could be lying if you ask me. Geezer probably was drunk as hell and doesn't remember anything and remembers it that way, where these two are probably KKK members for all I know. I don't know. I'm not going to throw out who's right or who's wrong here. All I know is that, yeah, Geezer got arrested. I remember reading this a while back, and for some fight. I got to look up the Alex Lifeson story. I know Alex Lifeson got in a fight on New Year's Eve in Florida, but I don't know much about that either. I got to go check it out and make it an Only News That Matters later. But, yeah, Geezer punched... I heard originally, I may remember this wrong, I remember Geezer beat the hell out of somebody. One person, but now I'm hearing he was taking swings at 2 people and he missed it, but he didn't miss the most important one, the security guard. You punch that guy and, it's automatic jail time for you. So if this story's true that Geezer went to slug one guy, missed, went to slug another guy, missed, then security guard comes from behind and grabs him the shoulder and Geezer turns around and punches the security guard, then yeah, Geezer was totally smashed that night. I will say that, man. But that's one side of the story. Geezer, on the other hand, was saying, hey, man, my sister-in-law died, I drank, and some guy came up to me talking about Jewish shit because he knew I was in a band and in music business. I don't know, that sounds fishy too to me. It's like, somebody recognizes me and wants to talk about the music business and Jews. I don't know about you, but I think anybody that recognizes Geezer Butler in a bar would want to talk about Black Sabbath, Not Jews in the record. I don't know. But then again, who knows, man? Maybe it's just some whack job. But maybe not, man. What do you all think? Leave it in the comments below. Do you believe Geezer? Do you believe the other two? Or you just don't know like me? Because actually, realistically, you don't know like me. You don't. Everybody online likes to make up their mind of what everything is just by hearing one side, or they hear both sides and just go on one side. This one, to me, I mean, honestly, it sounds more like geezers to blame, but who knows? For all we know, this guy might be a lunatic that loves Black Sabbath and loves racism, you know? Loves Sabbath and hates the Jewish people. That's probably what happened. I don't know. All I know is that I appreciate all you watching The Only News That Matters. And please subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and ring that little notification bell. I totally would appreciate that. And like the video. It's good for the YouTube algorithms. So stay frosty. Listen to Black Sabbath and schmack 'em a cob.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for to sail back to Boston. And so never more shall we see you again.